Hey everyone, Michael O'Brien here. Today I wanted to talk about the concept of pre-show and dual reality. Alright guys, so not too long ago on one of the Facebook groups that I'm in, I saw someone post a comment about David Blaine and whether or not they think David Blaine is a real magician because he does clever video editing in all of his street magic specials that he does. So you might see David Blaine doing something like this. Let's just use an example. Okay, I'll be David Blaine and you can be the spectator watching the trick. And let's just say the camera's over here filming everything. Think of a card in your mind. You see it? Four of Hearts. And then you freak out. And you're like, oh my God, Four Hearts, how did you know, right? A lot of people understand that there is some kind of clever editing going on here, right? And when I say people, I mean magicians. The lay audience, their minds are going to be blown at this point. But magicians are like, how did he do that? There's no way he could have just had the spectator think of any card and then just like that, he got the card right in their mind. So here's what you didn't see, and here's where the pre-show work comes in. Before David Blaine says, think of any card, Four of Hearts, he actually takes out a deck of cards, has a spectator choose a card, and he'll simply force the Four of Hearts. So it would go something like this. Alright, go ahead and choose any card that you like out of the deck. Pull it out, have a look. Make sure you memorize that card, because in just a moment I'm going to ask you to think about it, and I'm going to try to read your mind. Okay? Perfect. Go ahead and put it back. And I'm going to set the cards aside. I don't need those cards anymore. Focus on a card. The Four of Hearts. Boom! They freak out and rah! Right? But of course, the first bit where the card is forced is cut out to make it seem more impossible. So now the question is it truly magic if you're doing pre-show work like this? Now when I say pre-show work, essentially what I'm talking about is behind the scenes performance that the entire audience doesn't see. Maybe a select few spectators see this part of the performance, but everyone else doesn't. Now, I'm not saying stooges. That's a different thing. We'll do a different video on stooges. The spectator, honest to God, is not in on the truth. They don't know the method. They're not acting or pretending, or you don't coach them or any of that stuff. They really do feel like they are getting a proper performance, and it still is a magical effect to them. But they're just getting a different magical effect than everyone else. And that's where the concept of dual reality comes in. But we'll talk about dual reality in just a moment. First, let's focus on pre-show work. So let's just say I have a spectator. Let's just say I'm a magician. I'm performing in an auditorium on stage in front of a bunch of people. I have a spectator come up on stage with me, and I say, I'm going to have you think of any brand of a car. Think of that brand of car right now. Got one? I have a car right behind this sheet behind me here. For the first time out loud, name the car that you're thinking of. And the spectator says, Honda. And without even flinching, you just yank the sheet down and you have a Honda Civic sitting right there behind the sheet. That would be a pretty stunning trick. It would blow everyone in the audience away. Right? The routine that the audience sees is the spectator came up onto the stage. They could have thought of any car. They named Honda, and without giving any time to do a switch or do anything, the magician pulled down the curtain, and there was a Honda Civic there, without a doubt, a perfect match. So how does pre-show come into play here now? What the rest of the audience doesn't see is that the magician went out to the audience before the show started and maybe walked up to 4 or 5 different spectators and said, I want to show you guys this little booklet that I have here. It has a bunch of different cars in it, different car companies. You see there's Toyota, Honda, Mini, Mercedes, Ford, all of these different makes of cars. I want you to just crack it open and just look at any car and memorize it. So they crack open the little brochure. They see Honda. And you say, okay, did you get one? Don't tell me what you got. But I just want you to memorize that car. Because in a moment, I'm going to be up on stage and I'm going to ask for someone to come up and help me. You might be one of those volunteers. I want you to name the car that you just saw in that brochure. Okay, but don't tell me now. Okay, I want it to be a secret. I want it to be magic. I don't want you to tell me because I don't want you to think that I'm just going to go put the car up there that you saw. Does that sound fair? Perfect. And then you go and you do that to like 4 or 5 other people, right? And so now when it comes time to do the show, the wide audience is going to think that that spectator just named that car out of the blue. What that spectator is going to think is, how in the heck did he know out of the 50 or so cars that he had in that book that the one I was thinking of was the Honda? So this is where dual reality comes in now. Dual reality is simply what it sounds like. It's 2 different realities or 2 different groups of audience experiencing 2 different effects. The audience, the effect that they experience is he named any car out of the blue that he wanted to, and then boom, the Honda was behind him. The effect that the spectator that was forced the Honda on got was, I could have chosen any of these cars from this book, but the car that I chose happened to be the one that he had behind the curtain. So they're both getting magical effects, but they're both getting these magical effects in different ways. So now here we come right back full circle to the question now. Is the concept of pre-show work, is that real magic? When David Blaine does his trick where he says, think of any number between 1 and 100. 86. And then the spectator starts freaking out. Is it really magic if he used some means to force the number 86 on them, but then just edited that clip out so us, the audience watching on television, didn't get to see that part? If so, if that's not okay, is pre-show work in a live performance okay? Is it okay for a magician to go out into the audience, have an audience member choose a type of beer from a beer catalog, and then later on in the show, have that audience member come up and then pour themselves a drink of the beer that they thought of, or produce a bottle of that beer that they thought of, seemingly out of nowhere without any setup at all? But of course it was set up because that person went out and grabbed a spectator in the audience and forced a type of beer on them. Is that okay? If it's not, is it okay for you to force the beer on the spectator in front of everyone in the audience? If your answer to that is yes, how come it's okay if you force the beer on the spectator in front of the audience, but it's not okay that you force the beer on the spectator without the audience knowing that the spectator had a choice from a catalog? So I'm not saying that I have any kind of dog in this fight, but I do think it's very interesting, and I am a little bit on the fence for this whole thing, because you can create some really strong magic using pre-show work and the concept of dual reality. Magic that's impossible. If I had you come up on stage and said, name any make of a car, and you said Honda, and I had a Honda right behind this curtain here, and I just yanked that curtain down and up here to Honda, would that be a lot stronger of an effect than going up on stage, having a book with a bunch of different cars in it, and saying, point to any car in this book, and then pulling the thing down and having the car be there? You see how the first one felt more free and more impossible? If as magicians that's our goal, is to create impossibilities, would it not seem like the better option to go with the pre-show work and make the effect seem even more impossible? So now the dilemma starts to very slowly skate into stooge territory. At what point is using a stooge to enhance the effect okay? is straight up coaching your audience on how to react and then videotaping it and then having those reactions passed off as real reactions okay. I will be 100% honest, there is a very gray area here and I don't know where to draw the line. So I guess my question to you is, where do you guys draw the line? At what point is it okay to do pre-show work and use dual reality, and at what point is it starting to skate into, stooge territory? Now, I don't want to do a full video. I don't want to talk in this video about stooges. I'm actually going to do a full video on stooging in another video, so stay tuned for that one. But I just want to get your guys' thoughts on pre-show work and the concept of dual reality in the context of using clever video editing or doing live shows. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, guys. Be sure to leave a comment with your thoughts below. I'll catch you next time with more advice for magicians. Take care.